UFC 310 is a little bit less than 6 weeks away, and it still doesn't have a main event. This is the last pay-per-view of 2024, and it's a marquee event for the UFC to close out the year with a bang. We don't have Belal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov anymore. I'm sure most of you already know that, with Belal pulling out due to a bone infection in his toe. The UFC is scrambling to try and create a new main event. On today's video, we're going to react to Shavkat Rakhmonov confirming that the UFC has a fight for him in the works and it's in the negotiation stages. We're also going to listen to Shavkat, who made some bold claims against Belal Muhammad, pretty much saying he chose not to fight, but could have. I'm excited for this video. We're going to jump right into things. We're first going to listen to the clip where Shavkat talked about the current fight that is in the works. The opponent, obviously, many of you know, Kamaru Usman, is tentatively the guy that they have set forth. Let's listen in to what our boy Shavkat had to say.
Yeah, I believe there's worthy opponent available. I'm ready to save the card too, if it's for the interim belt. And I believe Usman is the worthy opponent who's also probably going to be ready to jump in, to face me.
Now, this is the translator talking. Of course, Shavkat does not speak English. He has stated he's definitely willing to stay on the card, thank God, because he needs to stay on the card. I do think that he's a marquee guy on the come up. I think he's, potential star heading into 2025. And him headlining the last card of the year is great. Now, without Shavkat Rakhmonov in the main event, there's still a title fight that could tentatively or potentially take the place of this welterweight fight. But flyweight main events, regardless of how stacked the fights are on the main card and prelims, tend to not be super good sellers. And I think the UFC wants to send 2024 off with a big pay-per-view with big name value. Shavkat is definitely one side of big name value, but a potential opponent a la Usman stepping in makes it a lot better. Now, the stipulation that Shavkat has confirmed is it must be an interim title fight. He's not just going to take a 5-round fight against Usman without a strap on the line. And I think that's fair. He talked about, in this interview, making it a bigger fight if it's champ versus champ. Let's listen to the rest of this. Obviously, it's translation, but there's more to be said.
And so maybe this question is for you, Sayed, since you are his manager. Is there any talks of this happening? Is there any talks of keeping him on the card and fighting someone like Usman for an interim title?
Yeah, right now negotiation is going on, and obviously there's talking. I don't know if they're talking to someone else, but I'm sure they offered Kamaru too.
So confirmed by Shavkat Rakhmonov's manager right now. Today, this was confirmed. This interview was from earlier today. Yes, the Usman fight is in the works. Now, he doesn't know if it's somebody else potentially being talked to on the side, but we know that Ian Gary and Joaquin Buckley is booked. I think it's extremely unlikely that somebody like a Leon Edwards would now jump in on short notice to fight against Shavkat. Another name was maybe Jack Della Maddalena, but I don't know. He could potentially be still dealing with, some issues of his own. And he's on the other side of the world, right? To make a quick turnaround, it'd be better to get somebody, actively training stateside, I feel. But I could be wrong. Jack Della could be willing to step in. I think Usman wants to fight. He did pitch for the fight on social media, and I believe him and Shavkat is probably the biggest main event they can do in the welterweight division, aside from the actual title fight between Belal and Shavkat, which I will assume happens later in 2025. The word is that Belal is only going to be out for 6 weeks, right? And this is what Belal has stated, and maybe that was an attempt to push for a rescheduling as opposed to having Shavkat take a fight. But you can listen here to what Shavkat Rakhmonov speaks of. He has theories that Belal's going to be out a lot longer than that with this bone infection. Definitely relatively serious injury, not major career threatening, but it's something that could take more than 6 weeks to heal. I got to say, I agree with Shavkat, but let's play the audio.
Okay. Yeah, I don't believe it's going to be 6 weeks. To be honest, I believe like Jack Dell had same problem with infection, and and he's still not back. So it can take a while. And Bilal don't need to be greedy. If I become an interim champ, he's still gonna have a belt too, and it's gonna be champ versus champ, even bigger fight.
Interesting, he says Jack Della dealing with it as well. So Jack Della is probably not stepping in on short notice if he has this information that Jack Della is still on the sidelines with a bone infection of his own. So that kind of leaves Usman as the last pawn. Unless, like I said, Leon, but I doubt he's doing it. We know Buckley has already got a fight scheduled versus Gary, which are other two options. Sean Brady is a guy that could be considered, but I think it's extremely unlikely that he's going to get the call because regardless of the potential that he has, and he's a skilled guy, he just beat Gilbert Burns, I don't think he has the name value to headline a UFC pay-per-view, especially a UFC pay-per-view to cap off the year. But there is one guy that hasn't even been mentioned, and I'm assuming it's because he doesn't want a short notice fight, but he's never going to get another title fight if he didn't take this one. What about Colby? I know this is a crazy take, and I'm not saying that Colby deserves it, but if Colby Covington was available and let's say the Usman fight couldn't get set up, Covington Shavkat still moves the needle, and I think many of us would be happy to witness Shavkat giving a little beat down to Colby Covington. Maybe he stops him, maybe he chokes him out, maybe he ground and pounds him. I'd be happy to witness it, especially with Covington essentially ducking Ian Gary. I think that he got, he's got to get a little karma on his ass because he talks a big game, but he ends up never delivering with much. And I think Colby Covington might be the second guy the UFC's talking to, but I'm not so sure he would take the shot. I will say, though, I know Colby Covington doesn't like a subpar circumstance for him to be in a title fight. There is really no other path back to gold for Colby Covington. I could be wrong. Maybe he wins 2 fights in a row and Shavkat or Belal is champ and then they bring him back in the mix. But it's a hard sell for me to have an 0-3 guy getting, a title fight and then, at the age that Colby's at, working his way back. It just seems like a very unlikely circumstance. Now, Usman, though he's currently on a 3-fight losing streak, to be fair, it's 2 losses to Leon, who was the champion. He beat Usman for the belt, right? And then he beat him a second time to defend the belt. And then Khamzat Chimaev, who is the top contender, I feel, in the middleweight division. And he has the current champ, Dricus du Plessis, calling him out. So I really, in my heart of hearts, feel like Kamaru Usman is the most sensible and is the best option. If it's not Belal and Shavkat, a fight that I would be very excited to watch would be Shavkat versus Usman. Not 100% that it's happening, but the word is from Shavkat, it's trying to be made. And I do agree, Belal will be out longer than 6 weeks, so I think the timeline could be impeccable here. And we could end up seeing this fight in like April or May of 2025 with the unification of the titles, which isn't a bad thing. He's right. Champ versus champ is bigger, even if it's an interim belt. Now, this is, I think, my favorite clip of them all. Shavkat's a very chill dude, right? He doesn't speak English, and he has a very calm demeanor. But in this clip, he kind of dug at Belal Muhammad a bit, and he made a claim, and I guess he started a conspiracy that maybe those pictures from Belal were not exactly on the date that he released them, and maybe that this infection that he had going on was from a bit prior, and he just wanted to play it safe by not jumping in and taking this title defense on, a potentially suboptimal circumstance. Let's listen in to Shavkat here.
Yeah, from what I heard and what I know, he got these injuries even earlier, before it went public, because I hear him train, already recently, and maybe he just.
Do we have any other sources for this? That's interesting. He's saying that he's hearing that Belal's already back in training recently, and that this bone infection happened a lot later than it was told to the public, or a lot sooner than it was told to the public. I should reword that. Interesting.
Posted this picture recently, but the problem occurred even earlier. So I think he was able to fight on December 7th, but he wasn't just sure and just being extra careful for that.
Wow, based as fuck. Base Shavkat nicely and politely says that Belal Muhammad is playing it safe by not fighting him in December and that he could have stepped in and fought him. That's interesting. Well, the bone infection from the picture that we saw by Belal, it looked absolutely disgusting. And I think that it's definitely a real injury. He's definitely not pulling out like just because he's got a sore pinky toe. But I guess we don't have, exact timestamps on when those pictures were taken. And if Shavkat is claiming to hear this, I don't know. It just makes for more of a buildup when they potentially rebook this fight with Shavkat in a very polite way saying that right now, Belal Muhammad, the current champ, is, in a sense, he's not ducking him permanently, but he's ducking him in this circumstance because he doesn't feel without an optimal camp that he is likely to beat Shavkat Rakhmonov. And I do think that speaks volumes to the level of skill that Shavkat has and the fact that the champ is, maybe a little less than confident heading in than previous fights. I mean, he took the Gilbert Burns fight on short notice for what at the time was considered a #1 contender fight. Really interesting to me. Really interesting. And I think that Shavkat not saying much, but saying this holds more weight than if like a Colby Covington said it. You guys get what I mean, I'm sure. In the comments, let me know. Do you agree? Do you think that Shavkat Rakhmonov is telling it straight and that maybe Belal could have fought him at UFC 310, but was like, nah, I don't want to risk taking, a couple extra weeks off to not properly prepare for Shavkat. I'm not sitting here knocking Belal for it, but it definitely botched the damn UFC 310 card to end the year. Because if they don't find a replacement, the pay-per-view buys ain't going to be good, okay? We're going to look at UFC 310, and I'm going to review it. Now, obviously, we still got the Shavkat and Muhammad poster, but the new main event, it's currently the co-main event. It is Alexandre Pantoja versus Kaya Skura. As a hardcore fight fan, this is a simply savage fight. This is incredible. Kaya Skura is a really good Japanese striker who was the champion in Rizin and is now coming over to the UFC, getting a title fight in his damn UFC debut. That's insane. But to the casual fans, it's who's this Asian dude getting a title fight, not having fought anybody? I don't get it. If you know about the level of guys in the lower weight classes over in Rizin, then you can stand on and respect Kaya Skura's background and who he's fought. Like, he's taken on good opposition. I mean, Manel Kape's on the resume. Kyoji Horiguchi, Hiromasa Ogakubo, and other names I'm sure I'm not mentioning. So Kaya Skura's fought good opposition. But it doesn't move the needle for a pay-per-view main event. It doesn't move the needle for the selling card of 2024. This is the one we cap it off with. Pantoja, who's in many people's eyes, and I think many of you will agree, one of the least liked champions and one of the lowest, needle movers. One of the least exciting guys as far as like when you hear about a Pantoja fight coming up, you're not necessarily getting butterflies as opposed to, other champions like you're feeling, oh shit, Islam Makhachev, when he's got a title fight booked, everybody's like, holy smokes. Even when the likes of, non-champions like Hamzat has a fight booked in general, and now especially a title fight, you're hyped. Dricus du Plessis, another name. Or you know what? Even Merab. I think Merab moves the needle more than Pantoja. But still, it's an awesome fight. And I'm not shafting UFC 310. I stand on that UFC 309 is a disgrace and an incredibly weak card for Madison Square Garden. And that's a separate video. This video here, I think 310 is awesome. And the UFC is actually over-delivering with a stacked main card. But now we don't have the cherry on top. The co-main event currently is, if Pantoja and Askura is the main event, but it's not really the co-main event. Gane versus Volkov. Really cool rematch because Volkov seemingly has improved substantially since their first fight at heavyweight. And I'm intrigued for them to run it back. And now Cyril Gane claiming he's taking MMA more serious than ever. 310's looking good. 310's undercard is great. Evlo Evans Sterling's going to be a dope fight. Vicente Luque and Nick Diaz is just a cult fight. Neither guy is near their prime. We got Luque, who's had, brain bleeds and shit. And then we have Nick Diaz, who looked really weird against Robbie Lawler. To be fair, though, he had good moments. But, came in way out of shape, didn't look good on the scales, didn't look good in the cage. Maybe he's coming in more dialed in and motivated. And a featured prelim of the night, Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes, in a cool fight between two of, the high-level gatekeeping / journeyman of the UFC light heavyweight division. Two of John Jones' victims. And, when you keep digging, there's good fights. You got Clay Guida, Chase Hooper, Taliesin Teixeira, who's a heavyweight prospect. Durden Van's cool. Brown in battle is tremendous. Kuniev versus Boudet. It's interesting. I think Kuniev runs him over. And Nate Landwehr versus Duho Choi might be the sickest fight on the damn prelims. That's actually incredible. I'm hype as hell. That fight just got announced earlier today. And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, 310 is a masterpiece. They just need the cherry on top. And I really wholeheartedly believe if you can get Kamaru Usman, regardless of the 3-fight losing streak, regardless of the short notice, you have such a sellable card. I really hope that they can do it. I don't think anybody else moves the needle at welterweight like he would. I would actually be less interested in a Leon Edwards fight. I'm not a huge Leon Edwards guy. I think Jack Della Maddalena or Kamaru Usman, but, with Jack Della potentially having the bone issue as well and keeping him on the sidelines, I don't know, man. I hope that he's able to come back, but he just had arm surgery in May. I don't know if he's ready to jump through. Damn. I'm looking for articles here to see if Jack Della has really confidently said he's down to do it, but nothing stable. He's a potential replacement, if anything, but I definitely think the front runner is going to be Kamaru Usman, and I think it would probably make the most sense. Ian Gary, who I think was number 2, I actually thought out the gate that Ian Gary might be the guy that gets the fight. He ends up having to fight down the rankings and take on the surging Joaquin Buckley in the card that closes out the year, literally the next weekend, which is UFC Tampa. It's Buckley versus Gary, and honestly, there's some pretty cool fights on that card, but this video ain't about that card. Usman's the front runner. Yes, he's on a 3-fight losing streak. Yes, it's a suboptimal circumstance for Usman to get a title fight, but there's no other way he's getting a chance at Belal straight out, like just one fight away from it, other than beating Shavkat for the interim belt. So I think if he's ready, if he's in the physical condition now where he knows he can absolutely dial in and train, if he can come in near full potential, that's a cool fight. Especially because he did relatively good against Hamzat, losing a dominant decision on just 2 weeks' notice. We have nearly 6 weeks until this card. I believe wholeheartedly Kamaru Usman can be ready to rock and roll for UFC 310 on December 7th. And I believe that we're in a good spot. I hope that it comes to fruition. I guess realistically, it's a little less. I think it's more like 5 weeks. What is it, the 7th? It's already November 4th. In my brain, this whole video, I'm thinking, okay, it's the December 14th card. But no, the UFC is playing hot potato with cards. For some reason, the card that closes out the year is a fight night. They should close out the year with a pay-per-view. I think most of you agree. They should close out the year with a pay-per-view. Why the hell are they closing out the year with UFC Tampa? I'm not going to it. Just so you guys know. You guys that know, I'm from Tampa. I ain't going to it, okay? I'm staying right here to stream. But maybe UFC Tampa 2026, once we pass the 100K subs, we'll run it up and we'll show up to that event. Either way, guys, I think today's video was fun. It's, I guess, a little bit of a speculative video, but there is hard evidence that Usman versus Shavkat Rakhmonov is 1,000% now in the works. And I have to say, I like that Shavkat very politely kind of he poked Belal just a little bit, because Belal tends to talk a lot of shit, and I think he needs to get it back a little. And even though Shavkat doesn't speak English, the honesty that he says in the translation, it's heard all around the world. We all get it. Hopefully we see Usman step in because they need it. 310 is an incredible card. 310 is an amazing pay-per-view to close out the year. UFC 309 is trash. 310 definitely makes up for it with a banger, but now they're missing the damn main event. And I don't think it's going to be Pereira Ankalaev. I think that's a fairy tale. They're saving that fight for like March of 2025. And then I don't think it's going to be Tom Aspinall stepping in and fighting. I don't see it. I don't see it. I think they're going to call Usman. I mean, they already have called him. It's already in negotiations. I think they're going to get a contract confirmed later this week, and hopefully we can talk about this fight as being a true fight in a future video, and maybe I'll drop like an early prediction for you guys leading up to it. That's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Smash the like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe it up. Much love to each and every one of you. And if you got nothing to say in the comments, if you just enjoy the content, drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Thanks for watching, people. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.